Wanted to see if I can make a Liberty Bell. Now, my husband and I used to live in Philadelphia, so we have definitely seen the Liberty Bell a couple of times. And I wanted to try to recreate it out of a terracotta pot from the Dollar Tree. These are the medium sized ones, the ones that come in a 2-pack. And I want to see if I can try to make it look like a bell. Another item you could use is a plastic bell from the Christmas aisle at Dollar Tree if you have any in your stash. I probably do, but I definitely did not want to go through my Christmas stash. So I'm going to try it with a terracotta pot. And it is a very like metallic patina finish. I thought black would be a perfect undertone. So I just went over the entire outside of the terracotta pot with black, kind of working sideways there to give some lines around it because that's kind of how the Liberty Bell looks, and I think that's going to be a perfect first coat. For the clapper thing inside the bell, I'm using a knob I found from the Dollar Tree. It is like a crystal ball, but it's a perfect size. So I'm going to remove the hardware on this, and I think I will like retain the little nut, putting that back on there. That'll help me be able to attach that to hang it inside my bell. And I'm going to paint it too because I want that to look like metal as well. And I really didn't expect this bell to work, but in the end it does. So I was really impressed with how this turned out. So black for both of those. I'm going to set those aside and we can start working on the base. Now, if you have a Dollar Tree that has these on sale right now, my Dollar Trees have the galvanized metal letters on sale for 25 cents. So they must be getting discontinued. So be sure to stock up. I'm going to spell out the word Liberty and I'm going to add it to one of these little wood panel signs from the Dollar Tree, a little wood plank sign. I wanted to try to use the spray adhesive to attach these because they're always a little bit of a pain to try to hot glue on. So I just sprayed a layer of that glue on there, set those on there, let it dry, and then I went over it with another coat. And it actually worked. So win-win. Now for the Liberty Bell, it's held up with like 2 poles on each side. So I'm going to try to recreate that with some of these large dowels from the Dollar Tree. These are the ones that come in the 2-pack, nice and thick and sturdy. I'm just going to stain mine with some Antique Wax by Waverly, just giving one coat to both and wiping off any of the excess. Just with a paper towel, I just want a nice warm finish on these. And I'm going to be cutting these down, of course, because they are a little tall, but I find it a little bit easier to stain them before I cut them down. I wanted to use the wood sign as a base because it will be nice and strong. And then I could have a dowel coming up each side of the sign and then maybe one going across to hold the weight of the bell like that. Now it does have a decorative yoke that I think might be the original yoke for the Liberty Bell. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to recreate that as well. So I'm just going to find the middle here of our dowel and cut this directly in half using my miter scissors. I love the miter scissors. I got these on Amazon. I do have them linked in my Amazon shop in the description of today's video. They work so great for cutting things like this from the Dollar Tree. I probably do need to replace the blade on mine. It's getting a little rusty in my Florida garage. I just attached mine with hot glue. If you wanted to put screws or nails in the other side and drive that up in there, it would be stronger. But I didn't really want to drill anything out or get any screws involved, so I just attached mine with hot glue and hope for the best. I also want one of the dowels to go straight across, and I want it to be long enough where it can sit on those. So it's going to be pushing down on those dowels to hold the weight of the bell. And the reason I had to do this piece is because I'm going to be using foam for the decorative yoke part of it. And that's not really going to be a functional piece. So I did need something strong like the wood that could hold the weight of the bell. So that's what it looks like. Again, you could reinforce those parts with hardware as well. Really didn't expect my bell to be so functional. So hopefully nobody breaks it playing with it. Probably me. Now to make that old looking yoke that's on the top of the Liberty Bell, I'm going to try to carve it out of some floral foam from the Dollar Tree. So I just got the long rectangular piece and I am just using my pool noodle knife here to try to cut this down. I want a piece that is skinnier than the dowels that will fit inside, and then I want it to have like this arched shape here at the top like I saw in the pictures. I'm going to actually just sketch that out with a Cricut weeder, and my foam is just worked away. This soft foam from the Dollar Tree is so easy to mold like that. And I think that is exactly what I'm looking for. I do want it to be cleaned up and a little bit thinner, and I just kind of mold it until I am happy with the size. I'm going to seal this and paint this and try to make it look like really old dark wood, like I saw in the pictures. But for texture, it needs a little bit of wood texture. So I gave that with the Cricut Weeder. I just carved a wood grain into it. And I love how that effect turned out because it really reminds me of how the wood looks on the Liberty Bell. Then I seal it with some Mod Podge so I can paint it easier. Otherwise, I have a hard time getting paint to stick to, especially to the soft foam like this from the Dollar Tree. So once it's dried, I went over it with some brown acrylic paint. Not quite as dark as I want it to be, but I wanted to use a couple different browns together to really make this look old and cool. And so I just paint everywhere, the top, bottom, inside, outside, because it's going to be a standalone piece like this. Really, you want it to be pretty from all sides. And then once that's dry, I went over it with some Antique Wax by Waverly to give me that really deep brown tone that I was looking for. But the carving the wood grain on there just worked perfect. And of course, this is going to be just decorative for my Liberty Bell. All of the weight's really going to go on that wood dowel. Now our black paint is dry on our flower pot. So I went over it with some metallic gray. I thought to give it like a metallic look, which I liked, but that's not really how the Liberty Bell looks. It's more of a bronze. But this did give me a good base for the metallic color, but I end up covering most of this up. But the black on the bottom is definitely a good idea. And I went over the little clapper of our bell as well. Then I went in with some gold metallic since that really wasn't working for me. I got the gold metallic paint at Dollar Tree actually, and that's a little too gold. So then I mixed the gold metallic together with the black, and it gave me a lot closer to that brass color that I was looking for the Liberty Bell. So I just kind of played with it until I got the perfect shade, and I'm going to paint all over the flower pot to make it look like a bell. I was really impressed with how well the flower pot worked for this project. I wasn't sure since it's not a perfect bell shape, but it really works. I'm going to go over the clapper with that same gold black metallic mixture there and get everything good and painted. The more gold added to it, you're going to get a little bit more of a bronze finish like that. And again, I am using bristled brush and kind of going side to side to get all those great lines and textures just to make it look like a really old bell was what I was going for. Now this is the structure here. The yoke is going to be right here on the top. I just really need to attach it. Again, this part's just decorative for me. I just put hot glue on the top of the foam and glue it to the bottom of that top dowel. And I'm really glad I added that piece. I think it adds a fun detail, makes it look a little bit more authentic. Now to start putting the bell together, I'm going to need a little bit of twine. I'm using the twine from Walmart. It's a little bit thicker than the twine from Dollar Tree. And I cut a nice long piece of that. And look at that beautiful finish I've got going on. But I can't forget the crack here on the Liberty Bell, right? So I'm using just a black Posca paint pen. And I think it goes a little something like this over to the side. I did make the crack a little bit more obvious by going over it with a second coat, but trying to make it look like a crack as well, which is a really fun detail. Then I'm going to feed the twine here through the hole in the flower pot, which worked out perfectly. Making sure to leave enough to work with here. I am going to need to attach that to the clapper. So I just tied that off to the cabinet nod right there at the bottom, hot gluing that on and wrapping that around the screw of that, using that little bolt to come on there to help, keep the twine in place, hot gluing everything together. And that's all going to be hidden inside the bell, so you won't be able to see that part. And then I need to kind of adjust it where it will hang properly. I'm going to need to knot it so it won't go all the way through. So I needed to knot it quite a few times because right now it's hanging out way too far. I want it to be a functional bell, but a little bit obvious, but not that much. So I tied mine, I think, a total of 4 times to get the perfect length. And I was really surprised to see that it actually works like a bell. So that's really cool. Now I have all this excess twine on here. I'm going to use that to tie that to the wood dowel here on the top for structure. but I'm also going to tie that around a couple of times because that is how the Liberty Bell looks. So I'm going to use that extra twine for that. So I just knot off the first one and then start wrapping it around just in a pattern that works. I'm going to use most of this twine. And again, I do want it to hang and dangle above the base there. And I think that is perfect. I just hot glue down the end, trying to make sure that everything is centered and burn off any fuzzies from my rope with a lighter. And this is what our Liberty Bell looks like so far, but I thought it needed some red, white, and blue. So the edge of the sign is unfinished here for the base. So I'm going to give it a pop of patriotism with this great ribbon I found from the Dollar Tree. It's red, white, and blue, like flag pattern. And I just glue that all the way around our Liberty Bell, even on the back, since it is kind of a three-dimensional piece. And that really added a little pop of color to it that I really think that it needed. And I think this ribbon is perfect for like a Philadelphia theme here for our 4th of July. And that looks pretty good. The only other thing I wanted to do was lightly distress it. So I used a little Antique Wax by Waverly and I distressed that white sign. I probably could have done that at the beginning. It might have been a little bit easier, but I just wanted it to look old and rustic, something that would be a good base for the Liberty Bell and not quite so white and perfect down there. And so I just went over it with a slight distress and then maybe a little stippling here and there to give it a light distress. And I also gave a very light distress with ivory on the stained wood just to weather that a little bit, make that look a little bit older as well. And I think that's all this project needs. I'm really happy with how it turned out. My very own little Liberty Bell, perfect for a patriotic theme, very creative. I haven't seen anybody else make one of these. And so I thought I would try to come up with something really cool. Isn't that so cool and unique? I love it. I love the fact that the bell actually works too.